Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Building, Scaling and Securing AWS with AWS, CrowdStrike, and Bytes. Just some quick housekeeping. During this webinar, all attendees will be muted, but you can ask any questions in the questions box on the right-hand side of the screen, and I will field those afterwards. The session will be recorded and made available after the session. And lastly, we have got a feedback form at the end of this session. If you could please fill that out for us, as it helps us make sure that our webinars are still hitting the mark. And with that, over to you, Gennaro, for the intro.
Awesome, thanks, Michael. Are you going to cast my? Oh, there we go. Perfect. So hopefully everyone should see my screen now, and I'll just put this into presenter mode. Awesome. So morning all. So Gennaro Miacho here. I'm one of the cybersecurity pre-sales specialists here at Bytes. So a little bit of background on myself. So I have a background in cloud, but a focus on security, which means get to work with a number of different solutions, and in this case, get to work quite closely on things like AWS, but also CrowdStrike. Because of this, I also get to work with a number of our different teams internally, given the fact that security spans across almost every single different area of IT. So get to work with the likes of our AWS team internally. So in terms of a little bit around today's session is around better securing AWS and being able to leverage security vendors such as CrowdStrike that can integrate into AWS and provide that additional layer of visibility and security. In addition to this, we're definitely going to part you guys with some knowledge in terms of how to procure these kind of solutions and how to, and of course, the support that we can provide to implement these solutions by leveraging our AWS team. Our AWS team can also help with the cost management, optimization, and right sizing of these services. So hopefully this will really round off how to, give you guys an additional layer of security, but also the visibility piece. Anyway, before we kick off with the main content of the session, just wanted to take a quick 5 minutes to run through what Bytes can offer from a security perspective, and then I'll hand over to let the real content begin. So just a little bit about Bytes on the security side. So our security team has grown considerably over the last couple of months and year, and this has really given us a tremendous in-house capability to deliver a number of different services and solutions to our customers. Since that growth and even my time at Bytes, we've evolved quite rapidly and achieved a number of different services and almost achievements, and some that you can definitely see here on this slide. So part of growing within this security team, we have met a number of top tier accreditations with a number of different security partners and vendors that we work with. But we also offer out different consultancy services and support services on a multitude of different security solutions. So in terms of support, we can offer things like direct to third line engineer, depending on the products, and of which we've solved quite a number of requests last year, upward of 3,000 requests. So the play that we have in security, this is something that we're definitely proud of, and we play in quite well. And I suppose just to go into this in a little bit more detail, and I think this slide definitely illustrates it much better, is security is always a big topic. It does span across multiple areas of IT, as we know. So because of this, we've almost split out and focused on different elements in terms of security. So this could be anything from our cyber consulting division that's led by a group CISO, and this is more to provide the auditory and assurance services like pen testing. So really more on the services element. We do have our support desk, as I mentioned on the last slide. So that has things like the direct to third line engineer support. But we also have our team that works within the security alliances piece. So this is the team that works with different vendors such as CrowdStrike to understand the solutions and what they can offer functionality wise. We also have a raft of consultants that provide the traditional delivery, technical implementation of security solutions, and we also have a number of managed security solutions that we can offer to our customers. I suppose the final piece, which is around the security advisory, is this is the value add that that we can provide to help recommend and advise on the best course of action by taking the other 5 areas into account. So all of these combined, it really does help us deliver a more end-to-end security engagement. It's not just looking at products, it's not just looking at services, it's looking at the the entire area of security. So I suppose can't be a marketing day without some kind of a sales slide in here. So one of the main things is why work with Bytes? Well, we are a partner we can trust because we play in a number of different areas of security, as we saw on the last slide. So we're not just focused on one area, but as a business, we have various industry recognized accreditations. So PCI, ISO, all of those are good tags to have. But we also work very closely with our partners and vendors and some of the market leading security solutions. So we've achieved some of those top tier partner certifications to show how close we work with these solutions and how adept we are within this space. I suppose finally, just to close it off with some referenceability. So we've worked with a number of big customers, small customers, customers of all shapes and sizes. So obviously, while some of the ones listed here are some of the more larger companies, we do work with businesses in multiple different verticals, different sizes, and we do have a number of references and case studies that we can share around these in regards to security and the other solutions that we provide if needed. But Bytes, we're of course an open company such as that, in terms of we're more than happy to work with anyone. We want to support any and all businesses in regards to helping them out on the security and infrastructure piece. Again, not going to go through the entirety of this slide, but just wanted to showcase that we have worked with a multitude of different companies and have helped support them on their security journey. So hopefully this gives a bit of a flavor and insight into what Bytes can deliver from a security standpoint. So hopefully this means that we can help and work with you in the future. But yeah, hopefully that was a very quick, I suppose, 5 to 6 minute overview. So I didn't want to take up too much time on the main content, but what I'll do now is I'll pass over to Rob in order to go through the key elements of AWS and how security can tie into this. So thanks for your time, and Rob, the floor is yours, or virtual floor is yours, should I say.
Thanks very much, and thanks very much everyone for having me. So my name's Rob Hale. I lead the security segment for AWS in EMEA, which means essentially I help our customers around security challenges using both an integration of native tools and our partners, both great ISV technology partners such as CrowdStrike and consulting partners such as Bytes. So I wanted to give you a quick overview in the next sort of 10 or 15 minutes around what matters in AWS from a security standpoint, and how our customers are adapting their security posture and increasing their security through moving to the cloud. So hopefully, if my screen's working, it is indeed. So the first thing to say, and the very first thing I learned when I came to AWS, we have a saying which is it's always day one. I am now 2.5 years into AWS. It's still day one, but security is job zero. So it's the very first thing that anybody within Amazon thinks about and does. The very first tools that we use. The very first tool that a customer uses when they open an AWS account is actually a security tool. It's our IAM platform, which enables the creation of an account, assigns roles and attributes to that account, and creates security groups. So security is absolutely a foundation of everything that we do in AWS. As you'd imagine, we have a very mature security operation within AWS. It's embedded in all layers. We have a dedicated CISO who reports directly into the CEO and has multiple meetings every week and pretty much shadows the CEO an awful lot through the week. So Steve Smith's organization works very, very closely with the area that I work in to make sure that the native security tools that customers are using, which have traditionally come from tools that we use internally, are integrating well with our partners to help customers solve security challenges. So when we talk to customers, and I meet a lot of customers and have CISO roundtables on a frequent basis with different industry groups, it's really quite apparent that often organizations are faced with a choice. They can either move fast and potentially compromise security, or they could move slowly and stay secure. But it's a very exclusive choice. They haven't really been able to do both in an on-prem environment. The challenges are that actually they need to be able to inherit their global security controls, to have those consistent whether they're on-premise or in cloud. And a lot of customers will attest to the fact that actually the controls that they have in AWS cloud give them far more security monitoring and control options than they get on-prem. You need to be able to scale those controls. One of the biggest issues with security control is scalability. So how can you ensure that your security controls are scaling with your application as it grows, and also as it contracts as well? And this is really, really key within a cloud environment where your application load is going to increase significantly, and then it's going to reduce down afterwards in a very elastic nature. So you need your security controls to be able to do that, and that's something that works very, very well in a cloud environment where you can scale both scalability to deal with traffic load and also elasticity to deal with cost very effectively. Evidently, everybody wants to make sure their data is absolutely secure, and customer security and data security is absolutely prime at AWS. So you need to make sure that your data is secure, that you have the correct settings, etc. there from a least privilege basis. And that's one of the great things around migrating data to the cloud, is you can essentially hit the reset switch and start again in terms of setting least privilege from the ground up, rather than trying to further restrict down a policy which is already too permissive. Customers also say that when they're expanding, when the business is expanding, they really, really need to be able to get hold of the amount of security data, quickly identify which of those logs and alerts are the ones they need to pay attention to now, and then be able to mitigate those really quickly. There's a cyber skills gap across the globe. It's particularly apparent in EMEA and within the UK market because of the maturity of organizations. So getting the right security people and retaining them is difficult. When you put that into a cloud environment where the business can accelerate, become far more agile, then the old model of having a large SecOps team, which is largely human driven, doesn't really scale to a rapidly evolving business when it moves to the cloud. So our customers are constantly looking at ways to automate and to use a selection of tools that are both deeply integrated with the security services on AWS and also partner tools as well, which means they can effectively free up their high-level analysts from having to deal with potentially basic tasks, and they can also improve their security response time and posture very rapidly by, for example, undoing unauthorized permissions changes or closing a public repository, for example. And we can only do this with what is effectively the largest network of security partners within the market, who integrate with the native tools that customers are using, whether that's basic tools like IAM, for example, or security tools such as GuardDuty or Security Hub. We know that for all of our customers, they really do need a mix of native tools and partner tools in there as well. So the new kind of normal within the cloud world is, how do we move fast and stay secure? One of the biggest lessons that our customers tell us about is actually the ability to empower users whilst having effective guardrails in place. And this is very much on the same line of having your DevOps people who want to absolutely move really quickly. They want to code, deploy new applications and migrate workloads to the cloud, and bring new services to customers. But the security's job within an organization is obviously to make sure that the data is secure, your customers' data is secure, and your services are secure. So you need to have a way of using technology and using controls and monitoring to make sure that your DevOps people can move at DevOps speed within a set of guardrails that you've defined. And when that happens, you then need to know what's going on and also have a plan. And this is where customers are using alerts to tell them when guardrails have been breached, for example, overly permissive rules have been set. Anomaly detection, for example, with AWS Guard Duty to detect, for example, the creation of unauthorized instances in a region that isn't authorized or normally used. Effectively using both logging and access management to log what's going on and have an immutive copy of actions, but also then to make sure that the right people have access to the right data. And when everything else fails, to make sure that absolutely everything is encrypted. That's both in transit and at rest from a data security perspective. And if I give you an idea of one of the use cases that we have around automated threat remediation, this is really, really key, and where partners like CrowdStrike can also play a really pivotal part in identifying threats that a threat actor may implement against a customer. And this is actually, this scenario is an on-prem and a cloud environment, but within AWS, you have a couple of different services which help customers to both detect issues and also remediate those. So I'll talk about a couple on here. So in this particular example, we have a group of AWS security solutions. So that's Guard Duty, which is our automated threat detection module. Amazon Macy, which is automated data discovery. An ability to use machine learning to identify PII and also look at the behavior of accounts and the data itself to see who's accessing it, why are they accessing it, have they accessed it before, and where that data is. Inspector looks at configuration and vulnerabilities on host instances, and of course our integrated partner solutions are all looking at the configuration and events across a customer's environment. They're taking those findings and they are going into a service called AWS Security Hub. So Security Hub, you can imagine as a single pane of glass that shows you, let's say, the top 5 events that you want to pay attention to right now. So it's a near real-time pane of glass into security events, and you can click through any one of those alerts to get more information and also to take action. We also have customers who are using auto remediation through CloudWatch events and through Lambda, our serverless scripting engine, to undo and remediate issues, create tickets automatically for escalation, which means that their security operations can scale, and their level 3 analysts are then freer to have a look at more complicated solutions. And CrowdStrike have some great integrations within the whole stack. I mentioned earlier the number of security controls is 237, and that number is probably out of date by now, but there's 237 separate security controls on the AWS platform, and we split them into 5 areas, as you can see. The main ones that you'll come to immediately are obviously identity, but also detective controls and infrastructure security are critically important, as is data protection. And then we come into incident response, which we discussed earlier around the creation of playbooks, config rules, and Lambda functions. So this is really what our customers who are migrating rapidly and have very successful migrations onto the AWS cloud are doing. They're building security by design from the ground up. So they're using services like AWS CloudFormation to create a template based on a technology and control stack. They're then packaging up their applications and resources and instances using that stack, using AWS identity and access management to set permissions, which then go into the stack, and then deploying a replicable and consistent security policy, which can include third-party solutions through AWS Service Catalog, which is a curated list of partners which you may use in your solutions that can be procured directly from the portal. And then they're enabling their developers to very, very rapidly migrate and build on AWS with the correct security controls in place, which really allows them to then automate security operations. It all really boils down to this, the shared security model. And anybody who's used cloud or is researching cloud really needs to know and understand the shared security model. And it really is kind of this basic in terms of AWS is responsible for the security of the cloud. And actually I say AWS, but any cloud service provider really is responsible for security of the cloud. So that's the underlying hardware, the compute storage, database, networking, how that's arranged in the AWS environment into regions and availability zones or edge locations, and protecting that element. And you can see obviously there's huge amounts of frameworks which we adhere to and are certified against. And then our customers are responsible for the security of their data, of their configuration within the cloud. So as well as data, that's the platform, the applications, the identity rules that they set, obviously the operating system and firewall configurations. And it's really a partnership, and this is where our technology and consulting partners come in as well to help customers achieve security very, very rapidly. I'm going to pass on now to Dylan, but I wanted to thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Rob. 1 second. Hopefully everyone can see my screen.
I can confirm we can.
Perfect, thank you. So good morning, everybody. My name is Dylan Natu, and I'm one of the sales engineering managers here at CrowdStrike. Today, I'm going to take you through a bit more of a product overview, and I'm going to talk about CrowdStrike Falcon for AWS. So I can confirm in terms of what Rob's just taken us through, as organizations continue to move their workloads to the cloud, AWS maintains its leadership as the cloud provider of choice for enterprises large and small. However, security teams responsible for protecting cloud workloads have had difficulty providing next generation security that is, one, dynamic and flexible as AWS itself. And this is being proved poignant, especially when you talk about cost effectiveness and efficiency. Rob talked about move fast or stay secure. So what we've done at CrowdStrike, with CrowdStrike Cloud Workload Protection, we fulfill all of these demands by delivering unique breach stopping capabilities and detailed visibility to enhance the protection of AWS instances without compromising performance. But before I dive into it, I wanted to kind of give you guys a high-level overview for everyone in terms of the platform. So the platform is a combination of technology, intelligence, and expertise, providing a number of different functionalities. If you look at this image, and we start from the left-hand side, moving across to the right, we first start with endpoint security, which is all about prevention. We combine next-generation antivirus with endpoint detection and response, and managed threat hunting to protect against all attack types, preventing and protecting from nation-state actors to commodity attacks and ransomware. As we move to the right, we talk about security operations. Security operations is all about visibility. Our EDR starts you off with visibility into all endpoint activity in your environment, but we extend that with our additional visibility into vulnerabilities, as well as basic IT hygiene information about assets, users, and applications. Threat intelligence. Threat intelligence is all about getting ahead of the next attack. We provide everything you need to take the lessons learned from previous attacks, whether they happen inside or outside of your environment, and apply that knowledge to prevent future attacks. threat intelligence is incredible. It has incredible potential to predict and prevent attacks. This is what the platform does today, but it's an extensible platform, as I'm going to take you through and talk about more in terms from a cloud. It's extensible with the use of our CrowdStrike store applications and our rich API strategy that I'll dive into more. All of this, and this is important, all of this is delivered via a single platform, single UI, and single lightweight agent covering physical, virtual, mobile, and cloud workloads. As I think most of you on the call today will attest that what we typically see is a hybrid architecture which is a mix of physical, virtual, cloud, and in some cases even multi-cloud. So we talk about adding complexity. This adds complexity to an already complex environment in some cases. What about cloud threats? So attacks against the cloud or that use the cloud are real. Adversaries have already shown a lot of interest as more valuable data is stored in the cloud. The cloud also offers additional points of entry to an environment. Not only can traditional attacks, as Rob mentioned, be used against the cloud, but the new surface has enabled the emergence of new attacks, tools, and techniques. Something worth knowing or even playing around is Paku. I don't know if any of you have come across it, but Paku is, for example, an attack toolkit specifically aimed at AWS. So what is CrowdStrike's approach for security and securing cloud workloads? Well, it's the same approach we follow in terms of our tagline, stopping breaches. It starts with providing visibility because you can't detect, nor prevent, or remediate if you don't see what is going on. It's followed by delivering capabilities that protect when most vulnerable. And finally, those capabilities need to be delivered in the simplest and fastest way without interfering with operations and business performance. So this is where Falcon Cloud Workload Protection brings visibility into those workloads by monitoring and recording activity and events that are happening on workloads. It also allows customers to discover their workload and container footprints. It provides runtime protection. It automatically monitors and protects the containers running on the host on which the Falcon agent is installed. And I'm going to double click onto it now in terms of give you a little bit more kind of meat behind the bones, so to speak, in terms of the features and capabilities. So we talked about runtime protection. Well, how do we achieve this? Well, runtime protection prevents threats at runtime, and this is thanks to our AI and ML powered threat prevention, AI, artificial intelligence, and our ML, our machine learning engines. We're also able to do this by our behavioral detections, what we coin the term IOAs. IOA stands for indicator of attacks, and threat intelligence integration, powered also by our managed threat hunting teams. This is our human threat hunting teams. Many of you already familiar with CrowdStrike will know this as our Overwatch team. Cloud workload and container discovery. This allows customers to identify cloud workloads, find risky and misconfigured workloads and containers. Also, we talked about multi-cloud, find AWS, GCP, or Azure instances and container deployments. See usage of each type of workload. From a visibility perspective, we have visibility where you can look inside the workload and container and look at the events. Easy cloud workload investigations, forensics, and threat hunting. And finally, speed and simplicity, which helps reduce complexity, because I can't stress this point enough. Single lightweight agent that protects hosts and containers. That agent doesn't even require a reboot. It's straightforward cloud native platform that does not require additional components. And as I mentioned earlier, an architecture that is easy to manage and scales automatically. not to mention CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous development pipelines, where we can provide security without hindering the DevOps process. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail. An important part of being a cloud security solution is how well it integrates with native cloud tools. I'd say this is one of the criteria by which the cloud community judges cloud security vendors like CrowdStrike. The Falcon platform was designed for integrations, and it's also demonstrated by our API-first strategy. Rob mentioned AWS Guard Duty earlier. The API integrations, this has allowed us to be one of only 2 threat intelligence partners for the AWS Guard Duty. We provide APIs for this integration. We also integrate with cloud orchestration and automation tools such as Chef, Puppet, CloudFormation. And finally, we have specific points of integration with public cloud providers. I'm going to double click and go into a little bit more detail. As I mentioned, in addition to supporting EC2 instances, Falcon for AWS supports Amazon Elastic Container Service, known as ECS, and Amazon Elastic Container Service for Kubernetes, EKS. As enterprises move more of their workloads to modern cloud-native architectures, we're seeing new requirements for securing new workloads. Containers provide effective isolation and dynamic scaling of applications, but also creates a new layer of abstraction that can be difficult for legacy security technologies to see through. CrowdStrike's single agent is natively container aware. As you can see in the diagram in the center, we install on the host system, providing effective security for workloads of all types, including the containers. The Falcon agent delivers full visibility, allowing security admins to track threats down to the individual containers where necessary. And this is where we talk about the runtime protection. It also provides prevention and automatic detection inside the containers. It, as I mentioned, supports continuous integration and continuous delivery via API and pre-boot scripts. So as part of your CI/CD pipeline, customers can install Falcon on the worker node so that Kubernetes can scale out containers. Customers can also start the worker nodes with Falcon pre-installed on it or install it as part of the booting process. So very dynamic in terms of capabilities. I wanted to share the next 4 or 5 slides. I wanted to share with you some visuals of what the actual UI looks like and some of the capabilities for those specific screenshots that I'm about to share. So if you look at container usage, the container usage dashboard gives a summary of the containers and hosts in the environment. The runtime information helps identify unusual behavior worthy of investigation, so threat hunting leads. So this is where you can see a high-level overview, you can identify unusual behavior, and you can start monitoring trends and container uptime. We talked earlier about runtime protection. So runtime protection prevents threats in runtime. And as you can see, this is powered by our machine learning prevention, our threat intelligence integration, our custom hash blocking, and our custom indicators of attacks. So this is preventing inside the container without destroying or killing that container. As we move, full container attack visibility. So this CrowdStrike provides alert, context, and visibility to quickly understand container threats. You can visually unravel an entire container attack kill chain, and you can start seeing and pivoting around the contextual and threat intelligence data. And you can also keep this data for up to 90 days. So some of your workloads might be ephemeral. So it's important to also store this from an audit and a compliance perspective. We talk about container incident investigations. This is our container, or should we say our incident workbench view. So what it does here is we combine related alerts and incidents, and we bring it out into a streamlined triage process. This is to intelligently prioritize incidents by severity and criticality. And it just kind of streamlines the process in terms of identifying threats. We also talked about, or Rob mentioned, in terms of kind of misconfiguration or kind of policies. Container configuration is a very powerful dashboard. You can identify risky containers. The container configuration dashboard highlights configuration light privileges and interactive mode. It also lists containers and hosts with the highest number of detections. You can really identify containers that are running with risky configuration. I also talked about AWS Visibility in terms of from a high level overview. So what we're able to do is we provide real-time information around EC2 instances, including context-rich metadata about those instances by state, by type, by region, by availability, by zone, as well as the internet accessible instances. So total storage, VPCs for AWS. And it's important to note here, most of our organizations, some of them have 80 to 100, even more AWS accounts. So you can, and those accounts sometimes are typically for different teams, whether they're infrastructure, whether they're DevOps, whether they're a specific group in security. Having the ability to kind of look across all of the different AWS accounts, looking across all the different architectures, as I mentioned, multi-cloud, hybrid, gives you a real view in terms of visibility of that environment and your security posture of that environment. We talked earlier about sort of with CrowdStrike and AWS, we're a strategic alliance partner with AWS. Rob mentioned some of the integrations earlier in his session and presentation. Well, just to re-highlight some of this, we have integrations with AWS Guard Duty. This is where we provide intelligence-driven defense. AWS Security Hub. So customers can view Falcon event data in the Security Hub. AWS Workspaces for access to high-performance cloud desktops. And then AWS Private Link for secure communications. These are all strategic in terms of AWS and CrowdStrike. What we've also done from a simplicity perspective is we've created a bundle for Falcon for AWS. And that bundle includes Falcon Prevent. This is our next-gen antivirus I mentioned in terms of around prevention. Falcon Insight. This is our endpoint detection and response. Falcon Discover for AWS and container security. This is those screenshots I shared with you guys earlier. And then Falcon Overwatch. Falcon Overwatch, as I said, is the human threat hunting element. This is a group of, should we say, 3- and 4-letter agencies behind them, 10 years minimum experience, and they have access to the data, and they're doing managed threat hunting on your behalf in those environments. And then it's all also powered by our threat graph, our data engine and data modeling. Do you have 2 subscription options? Annual subscription. This is available by partners, resellers, and AWS Marketplace. We see annual subscription more for your permanent AWS workloads running 24/7. But then we also have our consumption pay-as-you-go subscription model via AWS Marketplace metered billing. And this is again for your kind of more dynamic workloads, your scaling, your elastic systems. This is where you can also have customers can mix and match both license types. So I'm coming towards the end, and I just wanted to recap. Here are some of the reasons why Falcon for AWS provides value. It maximizes workload protection by protecting workloads when they are most vulnerable at runtime against active attacks and threats, from malware to sophisticated nation-state attacks. Falcon expands visibility into cloud environments. So it discovers the workload and container footprint and continuously monitors and record events happening on workloads to detect malicious activities and ensure nothing is missed. Simplicity. CrowdStrike's cloud-native platform eliminates complexity. It operates without the need of constant signature updates or complex integrations, and it only a tiny footprint on the host. You'll experience zero impact on runtime performance, even when analyzing, searching, and investigating workloads. Last but not least, automation. We can eliminate manual processes in key and cumbersome areas to boost cloud security efficiency and enable cloud security to keep up with the dynamic and flexible nature of cloud workloads. And to echo Rob's saying, we can enable you to move fast and stay secure, all in one. So with that, I want to say thank you and pass you over to Adam.
Cool, thanks, Dylan. Michael, can you confirm that's showing my screen?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name's Adam Thornton. My role at Bytes is the Vendor Alliances Director. But for the purposes of this conversation, I am the sponsor, or the director sponsor of our AWS partnership. So we've had an AWS practice for about 2 years, and I'm just going to run through the makeup of that practice, what we're about, how we support our customers, and your key kind of takeaways from today and how you can engage with us moving forward. So you've heard from Amazon, you've heard from CrowdStrike. Where do Bytes fit into this? So I think the key thing to take away from today is that Amazon can only work and scale their business over the coming years through their partnerships. And that's technology partnerships with the likes of CrowdStrike, but also their reseller services partner partnerships, like the ones that they have with Bytes. So today, Bytes are an advanced consulting partner for Amazon. We're one of a couple of scale partners that have got some key focus in the UK, and that's really, which kind of form part of a flavour of my slides as I go through. The partnership that we have with Amazon is strong, growing, daily, weekly, and I'm just going to cover off a couple of the competencies that we've got that will help you when understanding.
Adam, sorry, your sound is gone. It's dropped off.
Is it back?
There we go. You're back.
Apologies for that. So today, as I said, Bytes are an advanced consulting partner, but what really sets partners aside from other partners in the UK is competencies. So at a base level, we underpin all of our services with ISO 27001, but we have two key competencies that we've been recognized by Amazon for. One is the well-architected framework competency. I'll come into a bit more about that in a short while. And the second is the Microsoft Workloads competency. So if you are in cloud today, or indeed if you're looking at going to cloud, those two services that we have there, those two key competencies are very, very important when you look at selecting the right type of partner. And I'll cover a bit more as to why. So what do we do? I think it's key to understand, as I said, Amazon have dominance in the public cloud market space. They are number one, and number one for a good reason. In order for them to continue growing, they need and are looking for partnerships like the one they have with Bytes. So when we were looking at setting up our practice and where do we focus, the best kind of people to speak to give us that guidance were Amazon themselves. So we sat down with them and talked about really 5 key areas that they see as being key to helping customers with that cloud journey. And those 5 pillars actually form part of what's called the well-architected framework. So as I said on the previous slide, Bytes are a well-architected framework partner. So what that means is if you are looking to build out an application workload in Amazon and you want to follow best practice as defined by AWS, then the best thing that you can do is to follow the well-architected framework. So whether we are building out a new workload, a new application, we will follow that framework. And likewise, if we're working with customers who have already started down that cloud journey, but want to ensure and understand how well architected that environment is, we can come in and do health check type services. But that concept, that framework of well architected really formed the basis for everything that we built our business on. So as you can see with the picture that I've got on this slide, we look at security, reliability, performance, operational excellence, and cost. And under each of those key services, we've got a service delivered by one of our technology partners, or we're using the native AWS tools to extract that information and present that back to you. But really our goal is that we want to help customers improve their visibility, regain control, and get that confidence that AWS is not only the right platform to them, but actually that they can justify that very, very quickly and easily by the simple extraction of the information to back up those stats. So what the key services were initially around cost optimization, and the platform that we use to deliver that service is Cloud Health. For those of you who have heard of Cloud Health, they were acquired in late 2018 by VMware, so they are part of the wider VMware group. We work with people like Druva to help with things like backup, DR, continuity, and then we work with the likes of CrowdStrike and other partners, and indeed, utilizing those native AWS security services, to cover the security side of things. But as I say, it's about removing the questions that our customers have, whether you're on that journey or whether you're looking to go on that journey. It's about taking some of that operational headache, uncertainty away from you. So how do we do that? I kind of talked about some of the services, but really, if you are in cloud, it's about getting our arms around you, giving you that visibility of what you're doing today. Where can we help you improve upon that, both in terms of technically, commercially, from a governance perspective, security perspective, and overall, the great thing about Amazon is we get to work towards outcomes. So we can really truly help understand what is the business asking of you, and how can we map and build complementary services to help support you and your team deliver against that requirement, or indeed deliver it for you if you don't have the resources and capabilities in-house. But these are just a few of the key services that we can support behind the scenes. So how do we do it? And the team that we have, we're quite different in the way that we set up, in so much as most of you will be used to working with services companies that want to talk to you in days, weeks and months for delivery of a project. We are different, we talk everything in hours, and the beauty of working with Amazon and other public cloud providers is that we can do 99.9% of the work that we need to remotely. So even in a COVID world that we find ourselves in, we're actually finding that the ramp up in our projects has grown, simply because people have got more time to look at the what's next and focusing on trying to identify additional value income streams for their organizations. So everything that we work on is quoted in hours, whether that is support hours, whether that's professional services, but everything that you do with Bytes will be quoted in hours. And then to give that visibility of how we're working and how we're drawing down, we have tools like Asana and Zendesk that customers have access into to look at burn down reports of hours consumed, to be able to log those tickets and truly have a more collaborative relationship with our architects and our business analysts. We try and use, where possible, a lot of the AWS native tools to support that engagement, and that really helps us, when we look at bringing new services to you, and some of those new innovative services that Amazon creates, because where we're trying to adopt those, we've lived and breathed those solutions and services ourselves. So the important part of this WebEx for me is really looking at what are the next steps beyond today? How can Bytes help you get started? I've got a slide that I'll come on to, but I really want to just mention it now because it is important. One of the biggest benefits of our partnership with Amazon is how they support us, and indeed you, the customer, with starting on some sort of cloud project. And that is funding. So Amazon, by far and away, in the 15 years that I've been running an alliances team, and working with all of the major tier 1, tier 2 software and hardware vendors in the global market, Amazon, without shadow of a doubt, are the most proactive vendor when it comes to putting their money where their mouth is. So everything that we talk about with customers in terms of new projects, and even helping with stuff that you're already doing within Amazon, everything that we talk about is eligible for access to Amazon funding to cover, majority, if not all, of our professional services costs. And I will come into that in more detail. But this slide is really at a high level. This is for people that are in cloud. If you are in Amazon today and you are unsure that you're on the right path, you're unsure that commercially you're in the right space, technically you have concerns that you maybe have zombie infrastructure out there, or you just don't know what that whole world in AWS looks like, and you're struggling with some of the native tools within AWS, then we can deliver our cloud health cost optimization service. So quite simply, we will plug our cloud health platform into your AWS bill. It's a read-only request of your cost utilization report. But once we have that report output being spit into cloud health, we can start to build up a picture of what do we believe the total and realistic opportunities are for your business to optimize cost, improve the performance of your AWS environment, reduce governance and security risks. And at a high level, in the sub 2 years that we've been delivering this service, we've now analyzed upwards of $40 million of consumed AWS revenue, and we've identified over $9 million of savings. So quick numbers, you can see that you're talking above 20%, around about the 25% average saving is what we typically see for customers. Now, in reality, the opportunity to save that entirety of that figure is difficult, and you've got to be very aggressive in your approach. But we typically see customers being able to save between 10 to 15%, in short order, in very quickly. So, there is no cost for this service at an entry level, and the bill that you pay to AWS directly today is the same bill that you would pay through Bytes, but we give you this platform, so that you can start to get some of that visibility and start to take back some of that control. And indeed, depending on how confident and comfortable you are with the platform, we do have a range of services to help you achieve that. So this is a kind of a quick breakdown of our service tiers. So from today, I would urge everyone who's got an existing AWS environment and ongoing consumption to look at taking our Cloud Snapshot. So this is a zero commitment offer. We do a 30-day snapshot of your environment, and at the end of that 30 days, we come back and present to you all facets of where we believe you could improve your experience with AWS, commercially, technically, security, governance. If you don't want to move forward after that period of time, well, thank you for giving us the time to talk with you, and we both move forward. If you think that you see inherent value most customers do, then we can look at moving you on to either a Cloud Report, Optimize, or Ignite service. And very simply, these services, the real differentiator is, depending on whether you want to be self-sufficient as a customer or whether you want help and support. And that help and support really looks like, us giving you recommendations, or indeed taking on some of the remediation actions, for you and helping you to optimize. And so, as I said at the very beginning, taking away that operational challenge from you, but doing it in conjunction with your teams. I won't dwell on that too much. Suffice to say that if anyone's interested in a Cloud Snapshot, please include that on your feedback forms, and we'll be in contact to kick that off. It's a very, very simple process. The last point really for me is funding. So I alluded to this a few slides ago. I can't stress how important the funding programs are within Amazon. We are seeing a more than 95% success rate when it comes to our funding applications. So what that means is, over the last 12 months, out of all of the professional services engagements that we've done, which is upwards of 80 now, we've got funding for more than 95% of those. Of those 95%, I think it's something in the region of more than 80% of those have had the entirety of their professional services cost funded. So actually, the cost for that customer to go and build out that workload and get it to the point where they can flip the switch and put it into production, was only the ongoing consumption of that workload once it was live. So everything up until that point was funded by the AWS funding programs. So to give you an idea, that funding covers POCs, Microsoft workload migrations, the biggest of which being SQL. Anything to do with Microsoft Windows is a big candidate. Anything to do with end user compute. So if you're looking at AWS native workspaces, if you're looking at Citrix on AWS, if you're looking at VMware on AWS, all of those solutions are eligible. And then, large-scale migrations. So we have a partnership with a number of technology providers. So if you're looking at a large-scale migration, that might be a data center retirement, consolidation. It might be, you want to look at cloud-to-cloud migration, so Azure to AWS. Then we have a number of assessment services that we can help with there to speed up and really remove a lot of the challenges that those large-scale migration projects bring into the mix. So whatever you're looking to do, we can assist. And the last piece to finish on there is that well-architected review. If you are in Amazon today and you just want to get that security comfort factor around your workloads, if they're production workloads, we can come in and do a well-architected review. It works out about a $5,000 cost. There's a number of technical architect hours built within that engagement to help you and your team remediate some of those suggestions that come out of that review. But that's funded by Amazon. And again, there's no commitment outside of just that one-off review to engage up thereafter with Bytes. So, we think that's a good way to get started. It shows some good value and gives that comfort that you're working with the right team. So what next? Following today, two things I'd recommend. If you're in Amazon, a Cloud Snapshot or well-architected review, zero cost, zero commitment for customers to adopt those services. If you're looking at cloud, then bear in mind the funding programs and that cloud economics assessment, so where we can come in and help understand through a workshop or a tool deployment what a cloud environment and cloud journey could look like for you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mark to cover off Marketplace. Thank you.
Perfect. Cheers, Adam. Double check that everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, I mean, I'm the the person to wrap up and then let you get on with your days, but I just want to recap on everything we've gone through so far on the call, which is effectively we started off around Bytes services and what we can deliver, and hopefully as you've gone through this webinar, there's confidence between the AWS business, that Bytes and the partnership we have with AWS, the challenges that we're seeing in the market and how we address those with the likes of CrowdStrike that Dylan went through, and then ultimately, if you're not already signed on a PO, then give it two more minutes, and while I talk around the differences and the benefits of AWS procurement options, which are outlined on the screen in front of you. So why is it important to understand these? Ultimately, it gives you a lot more flexibility around the consumption and a different contract. And this is where Bytes really can come into their own. Whether or not it's around trials, whether or not it's around annual multi-year discounts, whether you want to bring your own license to protect your estate, or whether it is consuming those on an hourly or monthly basis on some of those workloads that come into peak times, retail and various different hospitality industries. All of these are geared up to be flexible and allowing you to operate in an efficient way and also make sure that you are ultimately secure during those times as well. Obviously, from your perspective and as a customer, all of these then have easy and secure deployment methods as outlined around deploying with Amazon Machine Image, cloud formation template, SaaS licensing, all these different options there. And I suppose to wrap up, it's more around Bytes can help you throughout this whole journey, whether that is from understanding your journey, which Ad's just talked around, how we can take away and reduce those costs of your environment within AWS, or as you start in your journey, how we can alleviate the shared responsibility model, making sure you understand as to what is your control and what is being secured by the AWS. And then ultimately, we come around to procurement options here. Bring your own license. There's a marketplace, consultant partner private offers, and also an enterprise discount program. All of these something that Bytes can support you with. So if you're not having these conversations with us already and you want to, then reach out to all of us or one of us on the call. We'll all be open to have those conversations. But from me, if there are any other questions around this, please let us know. But happy to have those on a separate conversation as and when. But that's it from me.
So thank you everybody for joining the call today. If you just looking at the time, I don't think we have time for a Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please do send them to the tellmemore@bytes.co.uk address that you can see on your screens right now, and we will get back to you as soon as possible with answers for those. I just want to say thank you again to everybody for taking the time out of their day to be with us today, and also thank you to all the presenters for presenting. I'm sure everybody found it very informative. With that, goodbye and enjoy the rest of your day.